Hello and Merry Christmas. Welcome to a Classic Comics Christmas Eve livecast. Want to thank everyone who takes the time to stop by and listen in, both during the stream and on the rewatch as well. Got a lot of things to cover this week. There's no one huge story like there's been the last couple of weeks with the reboot of the DC Extended Universe, but there's a lot of stories that have spun out of that, and it looks like there's going to be some ripple effect. Let's call it that. So before we get to that, though, I want to talk about just a moment. Okay, I want to share this first. This is a story that grabbed my attention. All right. So, Hollywood outlook extremely bumpy for 2023. And this is from Variety. Let me bring that up a little. All right, so fasten your seatbelts. Hollywood is in for a bumpy ride in 2023. With the economy once again on the brink of a recession and cutbacks hitting hard all over town, the entertainment industry is bracing for more challenges in the year ahead. Among the many question marks for 2023, will the movie business revive to pre pandemic levels? When will the high drama at Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery settle down? And how viable is streaming as a business model for legacy media companies anyway? In an ordinary year, Will Smith's Oscar night slap of Chris Rock might stand out as a signature event. But that onstage incident, as shocking as it was soon overshadowed by two seismic developments. In April, the Warner Brothers Discovery merger closed, paving the way for a series of changes under new boss David Zaslav, while Wall Street darling Netflix disclosed its first subscriber loss in a decade, prompting a massive stock slide and general freak out about big bets placed on streaming as the wave of the future. In November, Disney's board of directors stunned Hollywood when it ousted embattled CEO Bob Chapek. Oh, hey, hello, Derpy. 501st. Thanks for stopping by. Just getting started here. Let's see. So in November, the Disney board of directors stunned Hollywood when it ousted embattled CEO Bob Chapek and reinstated Bob Iger to the top perch. So Derpy, I'm just going over some entertainment business headlines. I'm going to talk about James Gunn here and about the rebooting of the DCU, about Black Adam being canceled, about Zachary Levi maybe being replaced as Shazam, and a few other things. Right now, I'm talking about this article in Variety predicting a difficult time for Hollywood in the coming year. So Iger quickly undid some of his successor's corporate realignments and set about mending relationships with a rattled creative community. Nerves are far from soothed around town as the holidays get underway, however. With last minute cancellations on the rise and labor storm clouds on the horizon, Hollywood is feeling less festive than usual. Here's our look back at the tumultuous year that was and the outlook for the year ahead. So, multiplex woes. When will the exhibition business be truly boffo again? Avatar: The Way of Water dominated at the box office over the weekend, but its opening haul fell short of 2022 Marvel releases, including Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and cannot pape over the ongoing difficulties of mid range films such as Steven Spielberg's The Fablemans. Theater owners have been lamenting the meager release slate for months, and it doesn't look like studios will return to pre pandemic output levels at any time soon. All right, now streaming. So Netflix Q1 2022 subscriber miss forced the industry to re-examine bullish predictions about the sector's growth potential and all the billions of dollars spent on content. Layoffs and cancellations commenced, none more startling to the creative community than Zaslav's August decision to write off Batgirl, greenlit by the previous leadership of Warner Media and intended for HBO Max. This here today, gone tomorrow approach to distribution unnerved creatives behind shows, some of whom had spent years developing their projects. So the outlook here is mixed. Streaming is here to stay, but so likely are scaled back expenditures, excuse me, and a reliance on ad supported options as the sector matures. Yeah, so they're going to go to ads. They're going to develop a tier where they add, there's going to be a premium tier of some kind where you won't you won't get ads. You'll pay a fee and you'll get like some shows, streaming shows and other content that you don't get in the lower tier. And you'll probably get the movies that go to streaming, they'll go there first. And then you'll have some kind of lower tier that has maybe a lower fee or no fee, but it'll have ads attached, and they won't get the movies and the streaming shows until sometime later. With cord cutting continuing and content costs high, streamers began leaning more heavily into ad supported options in 2022. Former holdout Netflix rolled out an ad supported tier in November, with Disney Plus doing the same earlier this month. Meanwhile, free ad supported streaming channels are growing apace, and all that inventory makes Madison Avenue happy. Okay, and outlook here positive. The threat of TV shifting to entirely subscription models is fading fast. Yeah, so basically, we're just going to have cable TV again. It's just that it's going to be on the internet and not through the cable. With networks and streaming services ready to cancel shows on a moment's notice and cost containment a mandate from C suites, we might finally have moved to post peak TV. In 2023, we should get a better idea of whether that mountain of content has been scaled and whether the upcoming Emmy season will be less punishing as a result. Sanity seems to be returning as the volume of content production slowly and inevitably ebbs. And that's another thing. I think that you're going to see the amount of content and the amount of money that these streaming services have been just pouring into creating streaming shows. That's going to start, it's not going to go away, but it's going to get scaled back significantly because these streaming shows, they're not making money. They're not making money, and they just can't keep pouring billions into these things forever. All right. Wither Me Too. So, a series of court cases involving sexual assault have many in Hollywood wondering about the future of the Me Too movement. A Los Angeles jury has convicted Harvey Weinstein on 3 counts of sexual assault, but earlier in the year, a jury sided with Kevin Spacey in a $40 million civil lawsuit. Danny Masterson's rape trial, which could have put him behind bars for 40 years, ended in a mistrial. Meanwhile, Louis C.K. won a Grammy in April. It's hard to imagine returning to a pre-Weinstein world of looking the other way at vile behavior, but the legal processes for Me Too cases remain unpredictable. In the wake of botched ticket sales for Taylor Swift's tour, the biggest cliffhanger in music is whether lawmakers are all bark or some bite too, in taking on either Ticketmaster, which is caught in a stuck in the middle with you dance over tacked on fees that actually benefit the company relatively little, or what many see as the real enemy, the secondary market. Don't hold your breath, but after the outcry from the Swifties, maybe some consumer friendly legislation is on the horizon. Maybe, I don't know. I'm hardly a Taylor Swift man. All right. Oh, Lord. So the Duke and Duchess of Sussex made headlines this year with Meghan's revealing interview with Variety in October and with the December release of Netflix's Harry and Meghan docuseries. All that buzz generated a quick season 2 pickup. So, what's the next frontier for 2023? Producing scripted series and features? One bullish Variety staffer sees the pair adding Oscar nominated to their list of credits in the future. God help us. Oh, those two can't go away quick enough. All right, so let me unshare that one, and we're going to move on and talk about the drama over at Warner Brothers and DC, which I mean, this has become like a nerd soap opera. It's 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 just going on and on. So let me bring this up. This is from Deadline. Okay. So James Gunn responds to disrespectful outcry from fans over DC changes. So DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn has long engaged with fans on Twitter, both as a director of movies such as Guardians of the Galaxy and in his new executive capacity at Warner Brothers Discovery. But some of his recent replies have taken a sharper tone since fans began reacting to the news that Patty Jenkinson's plan for Wonder Woman 3 was not moving forward, and more stridently, the revelation that Henry Cavill would not be returning as Superman. One of the things Peter and I were aware of when we took the job as heads of DC Studios was a certain minority of people online that could be, well, uproarious and unkind to say the least, Gunn wrote this afternoon on Twitter. No one loves to be harassed or called names, but to be frank, we've been through significantly worse. Disrespectful outcry will never ever affect our actions. Many on Twitter questions Gunn use of the word minority. Like, what do you mean, you people? Claiming there is a major portion of the fan base that's not on board with the movies. Gunn repeated that his decisions with DC co CEO James Safran have been all about serving the story, which, in the case of the next Superman movie, Gunn himself is writing. Our choices for the DCU are based on what we believe is best for the story and best for the DC characters who have been around for nearly 85 years. Perhaps these choices are great, perhaps not, but they are made with sincere hearts and integrity and always with the story in mind. About 2 weeks ago, Gunn responded to the reaction to the Wonder Woman 3 news with, "We know we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we can promise everything we do is done in service of the story and in service of the characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives." Today, Gunn also went down into the comments on his post and responded to specific assertions. Who knows if it's true, but recasting all the main DCU characters, but keeping some. Will be interesting how Peacemaker and Suicide Squad characters actors live on, but the actors don't, particularly when they have all interacted together. Gunn responded, "I keep seeing posts with this untrue theory. We're not recasting everyone except the Suicide Squad." So that's one thing I wondered about is, was he going to recast Harley? Was he going to recast Peacemaker? And he seems to imply in here that he will. And I mean, they might as well. I mean, they've done two Suicide Squad movies. The first one was moderately successful. I mean, it was kind of a disappointment. And the second one was which Gunn did was an outright bomb. And what else? I mean, Harley did that Birds of Prey movie that was an outright bomb. So really, why are they holding on to that? Now let's move on to our next one here. Now this is an interesting one. Apparently, not everyone thinks that James Gunn is cut out to run DC Studios. And this is from Comic Book Resources or CBR.com. Warner Brothers Outsider reportedly doubts James Gunn can manage DC Studios. DC Studios co-head James Gunn faces questions within Warner Brothers about his management ability after a slew of changes he's made since taking over. Facing countless questions from fans and industry insiders since taking over DC Studios, James Gunn now has doubters within Warner Brothers about his management capabilities following a raft of reported changes made under his watch. A report in the New York Post cites one Warner Brothers insider suggesting Gunn doesn't have what it takes to lead DC's rebuild. According to the source, Gunn lacks experience and doesn't compare to Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige because Gunn has never run anything, unquote. The insider said, "I wonder if big filmmakers will work for another director with zero experience guiding movies through a huge grinder of a system. He's not Kevin Feige." Furthermore, the source pointed out that many at DC Studios felt pessimistic about its leadership role. The source even said DC begged Joker director Todd Phillips to take the position before eventually opting for Gunn and Peter Safran. Gunn and Safran assumed co leadership at DC Studios this past October. And it seems like I do recall hearing at some point that they offered the role to Gunn, and initially he turned it down. So, I mean, I get the impression they weren't exactly having people line up to take this job, which is interesting. Since taking over, Gunn has come under a lot of fire for some major decisions under his watch as he and Safran attempt to rebuild the DC universe. The most talked about of these decisions was canceling Henry Cavill's Superman return, despite Cavill previously announcing his return and making a cameo in Black Adam. Gunn announced a new Superman film based on an earlier part of the superhero's life while confirming that someone other than Cavill will play the titular role. After Cavill subsequently confirmed he wouldn't return as Clark Kent's famous alter ego, Gunn faced angry DC fans who felt he coldly handled the situation, an accusation the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise Homer denied. He also refuted claims there's bad blood between himself and the Enola Holmes 2 star. They're referring to him as an Enola Holmes star. Sure, okay. Even suggesting he and Cavill would work on non DC projects down the line following talks. Not only is Cavill not coming back as Superman, but it appears most of the DCU's familiar faces could be leaving the universe. Wonder Woman 3, starring Gal Gadot, will reportedly not be moving ahead, while a cameo featuring Gadot in The Flash has been scrapped. Furthermore, Jason Momoa will no longer star as Aquaman, as he's been tipped within DC to play another of its characters in Lobo for an upcoming film franchise based on the intergalactic bounty hunter. Well, is that confirmed, though? I know there's been talk about that, but I don't remember seeing anything saying that was official. Oh, well, we'll see. In addition to his DC duties, Gunn is currently promoting the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, his recently released Disney Plus original film, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of people aren't happy with Gunn. I don't think that Gunn had Cavill removed because, they don't like Cavill. I believe him when he says, "Hey, I like Cavill and we'd like to work with him." I really think that a lot of this recasting is simply a money issue. I think because there was an article that said that Gal Gadot was going to get like 20 million for Wonder Woman 3, and I got to imagine Cavill would be getting about that for Superman or for a Man of Steel 2. And I think again they want to kind of follow the Marvel model here. They want to recast these roles with younger actors who are going to be cheaper, and they'll sign them up for 6 7 8 movies or whatever, and pay them each like a few million per movie instead of giving them 20 30 million to play a single film. And that's one way they're going to save money, because it's pretty obvious these DC films have a bit of a ceiling on how much money they can make. That Batman movie last spring made like 770 million. Wonder Woman made about that much too. The Batman Superman made like 850 million or something. So I think they're realizing these aren't all going to make $1 billion, and so they're trying to set their sights a little lower in terms of how much they spend on these things. Now, there's another article here I wanted to bring up, and this one actually, of all the things I've heard and read, this is the one thing that really has me excited and thinking that this could work out really well. So this again is from CBR.com. James Gunn is taking inspiration from Justice League Unlimited and Young Justice. DC Studios boss James Gunn confirms popular DC series like Young Justice and Justice League Unlimited will serve as inspiration for the new DCU. And that is maybe the best thing I have heard about DC films and I don't even know, like, at least since this DCU business began. Because I've been saying all along, why don't they just get the people who did Justice League? Get Bruce Timm, get Paul Dini, get that bunch, bring them in here and let them make some movies. But for some reason, Warner Brothers won't do that. But at least now they got someone who's willing to look at that stuff and say, that's the direction we need to go. That's what we need to be emulating. All right. So James Gunn has revealed that he is looking at past DC series for inspiration when building the new DC universe. The DC Studios co CEO confirmed to a fan on Twitter that he is, quote, definitely taking inspiration from DC animated shows like Justice League Unlimited and Young Justice when planning out the DCU. While Gunn didn't elaborate on which aspects of the series inspired him, both properties successfully balance popular and obscure characters in already established universes, which is something Gunn has confirmed the DCU will focus on moving forward. Gunn has been making waves at DC Studios as co-CEO since assuming the leadership position at the start of November. While fans initially expected Gunn's DCU to continue from where the DCEU Snyderverse left off, the recent announcement that Henry Cavill is finished as Superman and that the DCU would focus on a younger Man of Steel has left many fans angered at the DC Studios head. However, Gunn has defended the decision to replace Cavill as the Big Blue Boy Scout, stating, our choices for the DCU are based upon what we believe is best for the story and best for the DC characters who have been around for nearly 85 years. Perhaps these choices are great, perhaps not, but they are made with sincere hearts and integrity, et cetera, et cetera. So, despite previously proclaiming that the hierarchy of the DCU was about to change, Dwayne Johnson has revealed that he is not returning as Black Adam for the first chapter of Gunn's DCU storytelling. He added, however, that DC and $7 have agreed to continue exploring the most valuable ways. Wait, what is this? This is like a different article. Is this the same article? It feels like it's a different one. I don't know. However, DC and $7 have agreed to continue exploring the most valuable ways Black Adam can be utilized in future DC multiverse chapters. One actor that is seemingly staying put in the DCU is Zachary Levi, with the Shazam star denying a recent rumor that he stated he was being replaced as the DC superhero. I wouldn't go believing everything you see on the internet, he said. Levi made his DC debut in 2019's Shazam and will return in 2023 Shazam Fury of the Gods. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, I've been saying for years DC, Warner Brothers should let the people making Justice League Unlimited and Batman in the Animated Series and all that run. Oh, hey, Loki. Hey, man, thanks for stopping by. I didn't even see you there. Merry Christmas, man. Okay, so and yeah, so I don't understand why they haven't let the makers of the cartoon shows run the film division, because fans love this stuff, and the people who run these, who have made these animated shows, they know the DC lore, front and back. They know it all really well, and they make stuff that's entertaining but also stays true to the source material. So hearing that Gunn is going to be using those shows as inspiration for where he's going to go in the future, that's the best thing I've heard in years as far as DC films are concerned. In fact, it might be the best thing I've ever heard in terms of what DC Films is doing. All right, and related to that, there's another article I wanted to go through here about the kind of work that Gunn is pretending or is preparing to do. And this is another article from CBR. So James Gunn confirms DCU Elseworlds projects are in active development. DC Studios head James Gunn reveals that he is working on developing Elseworlds projects that will be separate from the revamped DCU. Uh, hey Loki, would you like to come in here with me? I can DM you if you want. Just let me know. So, DC Studios co-chair and co-CEO James Gunn has revealed that Elseworlds projects are in the works. After a fan on Twitter asked Gunn if he would be open to producing any Elseworlds DC projects that were separate from the DC universe, the DC Studios boss replied, "That is actively happening." However, Gunn did not elaborate any further, leaving fans to only speculate about what characters and storylines could receive the Elseworlds treatment. Hey, Adega. Thanks for stopping by. Merry Christmas to you. Okay, so Gunn did not elaborate any further, leaving fans to only speculate about what characters and storylines could receive the Elseworlds treatment. Gunn's response also lines up with his previous comment on how not every DC project will be connected to the DCU, which is similar to how Elseworld stories are not part of the main DCU universe. Elseworlds was a DC comic imprint launched in 1989 that published stories taking place outside the DC Universe canon. All Elseworlds publications were set in alternate realities and typically deviated from the established continuity at the time. Okay, so yeah, you're doing Christmas stuff. That's cool, man. I understand. Got some packages I still need to wrap up after I get done with this. Adega, making crepes for your son tomorrow. Oh, cool. I've never had crepes. I hope they're good. They always sounded good. Are they the ones they have fruit in them? I know some have fruit in them, right? And then some have chocolate, or am I wrong? Maybe I'm thinking of eclairs. All right, so where was I? So Elseworld publications were set in alternate realities and typically deviated from established continuity at the time. Brian Augustin and Mike Mignola's 1989 miniseries Gotham by Gaslight is considered the first Elseworlds tale, an honor that was retroactively given to the limited series after DC trademarked the Elseworlds name later that same year. Gotham by Gaslight featured notable changes to the Batman mythos and saw the Cape Crusader hunting Jack the Ripper. Although Gunn and Peter Safran are hard at work crafting a singular vision for the DCU that will encompass film, television, animation, and gaming, there is still a handful of previously announced projects that will not be part of this new shared universe. One of them is Joker, the highly anticipated, I don't even know how you say that, it's French. The highly anticipated sequel to Todd Phillips' 2019 Oscar winning film Joker. When the first film was released to near universal acclaim, many fans called on Warner Brothers and DC to use Joker as a launching pad for a line of Elseworlds films. While that never came to fruition, Gunn has seemingly suggested that Joker, okay, Folie à Deux, is that how you would say it? I don't know. And to a lesser extent, Matt Reeves' The Batman universe could be the first of many DC films to not be tied down or restricted to an ever expanding and changing shared universe. So, Odega, so you can put whatever you want in then, summer sweet, summer savory. Okay, got it. So far, most Elseworlds adaptations have been released as part of the DC Universe animated original movies, with Gotham by Gaslight and Superman Red Sun, just two popular stories to receive the treatment. A DCU adaptation of the 2000s Elseworlds tale, Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham, is currently set for release in 2023. Similar to the comic, the animated film will be set in the 1920s and follow Bruce Wayne as he accidentally unleashes an ancient evil. That's cool. So, yeah, I mean, if they're going to do Elseworlds projects, I mean, that opens up so many possibilities. First of all, that really opens the door for them to bring back Cavill or to bring back Affleck or Gal Gadot or other actors in DC roles. Because honestly, I've always seen the Snyderverse and the DCEU as basically like an Elseworlds. I never saw it as being really the mainstream DC universe. That was always part of the problem with it. It never felt like it was really part of the DCU. It always felt like this other animal. But if they're gonna bring back Elseworlds for film, I mean, again, they could do a Red Sun movie. Uh, One I would really love to see them do is a miniseries called The Golden Age, which is a 4-issue miniseries they did back in the 90s that sort of retold the story of what happened to the Golden Age DC heroes after World War II. And it's one of the best things DC ever did, in my opinion. And man, if they could do that like as a miniseries on HBO Max or something like that, that might actually convince me to get HBO Max. Because man, I would love to see that. All right. And then not everybody, and as I mentioned earlier, it's like the DC universe is like the new nerd soap opera. And not everybody is happy with James Gunn, and that includes Ray Fisher. Apparently, he got online and he took some shots at James Gunn on Twitter. So Ray Fisher slams DC's James Gunn over Joss Whedon's pseudo apology. Ray Fisher called out DC Studios' James Gunn for a now deleted pseudo apology about liking a post offending Justice League director Joss Whedon. So, Justice League actor Ray Fisher called out DC Studios head James Gunn for seemingly deleting an apology for liking a social media post that defended director Joss Whedon. The way Gunn uses fake grace on Twitter is really funny, Fisher wrote. Him going to bat for Joss Whedon, pseudo apologizing for it, and then deleting it immediately before taking his new job at DC is not. Refusing to apologize for toxic behavior seems to be a job requirement for Warner Brothers DC. Jeez, dude. Gunn and several others replied to Fisher to note that the filmmaker's tweets are automatically deleted after a certain amount of time, which isn't surprising when you consider what's already happened to him, with him having old tweets brought up that were embarrassing to say the least. All my tweets automatically delete every few months, Ray. It has nothing to do with my tweets to you, Gunn wrote. In, Jerry, in January 2022, Gunn was asked by Fisher to clarify several Twitter interactions from 2020, namely one wherein he liked a tweet made by actor Alan Tudyk that defended Whedon. At the time, Fisher had come forward. Okay, hold on. It jumped on me here. Where'd it go? Okay. At the time, Fisher had come forward with the allegations of misconduct and abusive behavior by Whedon on the set of 2017's Justice League. Shortly after Allen tweeted this, he apologized for commenting on a situation he knew nothing about. Gunn wrote at the time, I read what Allen said and I thought, damn, he's right. It was something I knew nothing about and I shouldn't have liked the tweet. Tudyk received his own backlash for the original tweet and responded in a statement saying, I shouldn't deny that another person's experience if I wasn't there. It's ignorance. So Fisher portrayed Victor Stone, Cyborg, in Justice League. Since coming forward, several people who have worked on other projects with Whedon, including Buffy the Vampire Slayer, have accused the director of inappropriate and unprofessional behavior. Fisher was also not the only Justice League actor to accuse Whedon of misconduct on the set of the Warner Brothers DC film. He kind of threatened my career and said if I did something, he would make my career miserable, and I just took care of it on the spot, Wonder Woman star Gal Gadot said in May 2021. Fisher's claims also allege that Whedon's behavior towards the cast and crew was enabled by former Warner Brothers executive Toby Emmerich, former DC Films president Walter Hamada, and other executives at Warner Media. I remember him taking a lot of shots at Jeff Johns as well. He put a lot of the blame on Jeff Johns. The newly formed Warner Brothers Discovery named James Gunn and Peter Safran co-chairs CEOs of DC Studios in October. The studios replaced DC Films, which was shuttering following Hamada's exit that same month and celebrated by Fisher at the time. Quote, Walter Hamada tried to protect his toxic and discriminatory colleagues, Fisher said. He failed. He tried to bury me and the Justice League investigation with lies in the trades. He failed. He is a product of old Hollywood cronyism. May we never experience his like again. Uh, you got to give Fisher credit. I mean, the guy, he's not backing down and he's not changing his story. He's not going to let this thing go. All right. And there's also another DC related story here I wanted to touch on. And this one involves Black Adam. If I can bring this up. So apparently, Black Adam is not going to be getting a sequel. And I don't think that's really to the surprise of anyone. I think that most people could kind of see that coming. And when your movie doesn't make money, and I know that Johnson has claimed it's going to make money, but I just don't see how it will. And I don't know. This article is not coming up for me, so I'm going to move on from that. And I'm going to take a look at this article on Screen Rant. So this is an article about this. You may have seen the trailer for this new movie 65, which stars Adam Driver. And apparently it's got him going back in time to the time of the dinosaurs. And of course, he's having dinosaurs chasing him around trying to eat him. Well, apparently, well, I'll just read the article. So, Adam Driver's sci fi movie 65 will battle Shazam 2 with a new release date. Adam Driver's 2023 science fiction movie 65 has been moved 1 week later to the same weekend as Shazam 2 to avoid conflict with Scream 6. Wow. Okay. So the upcoming Adam Driver sci fi vehicle has been moved a week later, where it will face off at the box office against Shazam Fury of the Gods. 65 was directed by A Quiet Place co-writers Scott Beck and Brian Woods and follows an astronaut who crash lands on a mysterious planet that turns out to be Earth 65 million years ago, where he must do battle with dinosaurs in order to survive. Per deadline, the official release date of 65 has been moved as part of an overall schedule adjustment on the part of Sony. The film, which was originally delayed by a year from its April 2022 release date, is moving back just 1 week this time, presumably to avoid competition with the hotly anticipated slasher sequel Scream 6. However, this move to March 17, 2023 now puts 65 in direct competition with Shazam Fury of the Gods, the next tentpole superhero film in the DC universe after the release of Black Adam this October. So, shifting a science fiction tentpole movie to the same weekend as a superhero sequel like Shazam Fury of the Gods is a puzzling move. It would seem that both films are attempting to appeal to the same demographic. So, the fact that Sony has made this choice would seem to indicate they are confident in 65's ability to compete on that battleground despite not being connected to an established IP. This could partly be a reflection of the box office of the original 2019 Shazam, which did well enough to earn a sequel, but was nevertheless the lowest grossing pre-pandemic DCU film at 140 million domestic. However, this move could also reveal that the industry in large has lost confidence in the current incarnation of the DCU. The franchise has been rocked by the merger of its parent company, Warner Brothers, with Discovery, which kicked off a chain of events that led to James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over DC Studios as co CEOs and largely dismantling the projected slate of DCU films. Although, although they were not involved in HBO Max's cancellation of the Batgirl movie, their regime also has announced several major updates to the franchise, including the fact that they are no longer developing Wonder Woman 3 and that Henry Cavill will no longer be Superman. All of this hullabaloo may have other studios suspicious that DCU films will suffer at the box office until audiences have more of a sense of what will become of their favorite superhero characters, including Shazam himself, though Fury of the God star Zachary Levi recently insisted his role was safe. However, one other element to consider here is the fact that 65 is not yet rated. While it seems very much like it's intended to be a PG-13 project, it's still possible that it could get an R rating, which would limit the scope of its audience to a group that is slightly less likely to flock to Shazam in the first place. Okay, so the whole thing of Zachary Levi, whether he's going to get recast or not, I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me that they would recast Cavill and Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck and Jason Momoa, but they would keep Zachary Levi around. I mean, I like Zachary Levi in the role, but it's not like these The first Shazam was not a hit. It remains to be seen whether this is going to be a hit or not. I suspect that he's probably going to be recast, but they don't want to say that publicly because unlike Cavill or Godot, he's still got a movie coming out. And they don't want to say that because they fear it will hurt the box office if they know he's going to get recast anyway. It's like being a lame duck politician. If they're going to get rid of you anyway, then there's no point in going to see the movie. So I think they're going to claim that he's staying, but after Shazam Fury of the Gods comes out, sometime after that, we'll hear that he is being recast, probably, no matter how well the movie does. And the other actors will probably get recast as well. But yeah, so Sony being willing to move a movie away from a Scream sequel and putting it head to head with a DCU movie, man, that's quite a move because it's not like Adam Driver is a huge star, you know. It's not like he's a big bankable star. So I guess they're just betting on the dinosaurs to bring people in. I don't know. But it kind of gives you the impression that Hollywood senses that there's weakness there, that there's blood in the water. And maybe you're going to see them putting their films up against DC films more often instead of avoiding those weekends, which, if that's the case, that could be bad news for DC and make it difficult for them to get things up and running. But this just kind of goes to what I've said, that I think there have been so many bad movies from Warner Brothers that it's tarnished the brand and people just aren't excited anymore for it. There's no real desire aside from a kind of a hardcore group of fans. From the average person, from the normies, there's no desire for these movies, I'm afraid. And I hate to say that, but I'm afraid that is the case. All right, so we're getting towards the end here. I was just going to go for an hour. Let me stop sharing this. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Super Team Family blog, and we'll close out this live stream with a quick visit there. Those of you who have seen my live streams before, you're familiar with this. This is a blog that shows a series of photoshopped comic book covers. They're covers of books that never really existed, but they should have. And they basically have team ups that never really happened in the comics because they involve different characters, Marvel and DC characters, for example, who would never or would rarely ever actually meet. All right, so let me bring this up. Give me just a second here. No, there it is. Is that it? Come on. There it is. Okay. I'm trying to remember where I left off on this because I thought I was on. Well, let me find it here. Oh, there it is. Okay, yes. So it's 2010. And there we go. I think I was in June. Go back there. Okay. I believe this is right. Yeah, here we go. So this is where I left off last time. So last one, what was Batman and Ms. Marvel, and they're fighting the Super Skrull. Like I said, I think that's a Gil Kane figure of Ms. Marvel, and I'm guessing the Super Skrull is too. This is a Ms. Marvel cover that has Batman photoshopped into it, and Batman Nick Fury, and I think that's a Dale Keown Nick Fury. This is a cover of the Hulk, I think, from when Dale Keown and Peter David were on the book with Batman added in there. Okay, Batman and Infinity Incorporated. So, Infinity Incorporated is a book that DC did back in the early 80s, early to mid 80s. And it started off really great. It kind of tailed off after a while. But it was a book about the basically the children of the Justice Society, the Golden Age characters, forming their own team. Had Huntress and Power Girl and several other characters on it. So this is one of the first covers. I think it may have been the second cover, the second issue, and they photoshopped this poster of Batman because this was originally a poster of the Justice Society, I think, and they were tearing it down. It's nice art by Jerry Ordway. And then Batman and Night Nurse. And of course, Night Nurse is a Marvel character. And I actually did like how they incorporated the Night Nurse character into the Daredevil show. I thought they actually did a pretty good job of that. I know I've seen that the actress, I'm forgetting her name now, but the one that played Night Nurse, who's playing Ahsoka now, I'm blanking on her name, but she, I guess, had put it on Twitter. She wanted to be in the new Daredevil show, but apparently they're recasting most of that show. I think the only person who's coming back is Charlie Cox, and everyone else from the Netflix Daredevil show is being dumped, and they're going to replace them, which is unfortunate. I really like that Daredevil show. It remains to be seen if this new Daredevil show is going to be any good or not. I find it hard to believe it will because I just don't think Disney can make any good Marvel stuff, but we'll see. Okay, Batman and Nightcrawler. Now, this is a team up I'd really like to see. Nightcrawler's been one of my favorite X-Men for a long time. And yeah, seeing him and Batman work together would be really cool. I'm not sure where this cover comes from. I'm guessing this is probably a cover of Marvel Team Up, and this was originally probably Nightcrawler and Spider-Man fighting Doctor Doom here, I'm guessing, but I'm not sure. All right, Batman and Nighthawk. Okay, so this is an interesting one because Nighthawk is basically a Batman, uh, a copy of Batman set in the Marvel universe. And let's see, who are they saying here? More frightening than the Joker, more dangerous than the Scarecrow. Who is he who can terrify our heroes? Okay, so they're not revealing who the villain is. That's definitely a Gil Kane Nighthawk. This is probably an image from his early days when he was on the Defenders. But Nighthawk was originally a villain. He was originally part of a group of villains called the Squadron Supreme, who were created by an alien named the Grand Master to fight the Avengers, and they were obviously blatant copies of Justice League characters. There was a Superman, a Batman, a Green Lantern, and a Flash character. But Nighthawk eventually became a hero. All right, Batman and Nightwing and Flamebird. Okay, so Nightwing and Flamebird are an interesting pair of characters. These are DC characters. Now, originally, if I remember right, Nightwing and Flamebird were actually aliases that were adopted by Superman and Jimmy Olsen when they were in the bottled city of Kandor. Kandor, of course, it has like a Kryptonian environment. So when Superman would go inside the bottled city of Kandor to visit the Kryptonians there, he would lose his powers. And then there was like some criminal committing crimes. So Superman said since he didn't have powers, he adopted this alias of Nightwing to operate inside the bottled city of Kandor. And I forget why Jimmy was along, but Jimmy Olsen was along. It was back in the Silver Age when Jimmy Olsen was a much bigger and more popular character than he is now. And they basically functioned kind of like Batman and Robin. And then after they had had a couple of adventures as Nightwing and Flamebird, they stopped. But then Kal-El, Superman, he had like a cousin inside the bottled city who was a scientist, and he and his assistant took over the identities of Nightwing and Flamebird, and they had some adventures in Kandor back in the Bronze Age, like in the late 70s. I remember they had a backup series in Action Comics for a while. And then, of course, eventually the name Nightwing was adopted by Dick Grayson after he stopped uh, wearing the Robin costume. All right, Batman and Nova. And I don't recognize this cover. Not sure what that's from. I'm guessing it's a Brave and the Bold cover, and they just took out whoever the other hero was and put Nova in there. Um, I mean, it's okay. It's not really exciting me. All right, so Batman and OMAC. Now, OMAC is a DC character. He's a Jack Kirby creation, and he normally operates in the future. So it's interesting to see him here. Now, this is a Brave and the Bold cover, and I actually have this issue. It's part of like a 2 or 3-part story that had Batman working with a female vigilante named Thorn. She's kind of an obscure DC character. But this was published in the early 80s. And in the original cover, of course, OMAC is not there. She's like they're leaping towards this Nazi to try and stop him. It had them fighting the Nazis. I forget what the plot was about, though. So Batman and Plop. Okay, this is an odd one. So Plop was a magazine, kind of like a humor magazine that DC published briefly I think in the late 60s or early 70s. I think it was the early 70s. It was kind of like, I think, their attempt to try and copy like Mad Magazine and Cracked Magazine and stuff like that. I don't think it was very successful, though. Batman and Power Man and Iron Fist. Now, this is a team up I'd like to see. Um, I'm not sure what cover this is, if this was like a Batman cover originally or a Power Man and Iron Fist. But having Batman and Power Man and Iron Fist work together, that would be pretty cool. I would like to see that. Batman and Power Pack. Okay, so this would be an interesting team up. Now, I know this cover. This cover is actually, uh, I think this is actually a Superman cover originally, and Superman was in the background over here. I forget what he was doing. Um, and then obviously they photoshopped Power Pack in here. Seeing them work together would be interesting. I like the title, Adventures in Babysitting. Batman and Prez. Okay, so Prez is a pretty obscure DC character. Again, he's this character who sort of existed in the future, and he's this teenager who becomes president. And it was created by Kirby. He, it was one of these books he did at DC in the early 70s that was trying to kind of tap into the counterculture of the time and trying to tap into youthful discontent. I never read it, so I really can't say much about it. Batman and Professor X. Okay. So I recognize this cover. So the Sentinel in the background, this is actually from a cover of back in the early 80s. The Falcon had a miniseries, and this was, I think, the cover to the first issue, because it was in this miniseries they first kind of introduced the idea that Falcon was himself a mutant. And the cover's by Paul Smith, and of course, in the original cover, it had Falcon dangling here from the Sentinel's hand, and they've taken him out and put Batman in. And then Brave and the Bold, Batman, and the New Mutants. And I guess this is supposed to be kind of like a two-parter with the Professor X story. And again, it's got him fighting the mutants. I forget, I believe this is a New Mutants cover. And there was another character here they've taken out, and he's put Batman in here instead. Batman and Quasar. And this would be an interesting team up. Quasar being sort of a cosmic character. I don't normally think of him working with Batman. I'm trying to remember where this Batman figure is by Mike Mignola, the Hellboy artist. I'm trying to remember what this is from. That might actually be from, could it be from Gotham by Gaslight? I'm not sure. It might be, and I'm not entirely sure. And that's going to be that for Super Team Family Blog. So I guess I'll go ahead and wrap it up there, because I know I've got some Christmas presents I still need to get wrapped and take over to someone's house. And I'm sure you folks have stuff to do as well. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. And again, thanks for stopping by. Those who watched here, watch the stream live, and those who watch it on the rewatch. And I will see you all next time.